The moon goddess statue exploded. Not cracked. Not toppled. Exploded, ancient stone bursting outward in a shower of silver dust that caught the moonlight like 1,000 dying stars. But that happened after. First came the words. I, Kieran Ashwood, Beta of Silvercrest Pack, reject you, Elara Thorn, as my mate and future Luna. Elara had known they were coming. She'd seen it in Kieran's eyes all week, the way he looked through her instead of at her, the way his jaw tightened whenever she entered a room. But knowing didn't make the pain less real. It slammed into her chest like a physical blow, stealing her breath, buckling her knees. She barely caught herself before she fell. Around her, the Luna blessing ceremony ground to a halt. 300 wolves fell silent. Even the night birds stopped singing. The only sound was Elara's ragged breathing and the whisper of her blue ceremonial dress against her thighs as she forced herself to stay upright. Kieran, she whispered. Just his name. Nothing else would come. He stood 5 feet away on the raised platform, looking like every Omega's dream in his formal beta leathers. Dark hair. Strong jaw. Eyes like winter frost. Those eyes had once looked at her with warmth. Now they held nothing but disgust. You're an embarrassment, he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. Look at you, Elara. You can't even fit the ideal Omega physique. How could I present you as Luna? How could I stand beside you and maintain my honor as a warrior? Gasps rippled through the crowd. Someone laughed, high and cruel. Elara's face burned. Her hands moved instinctively to smooth down her dress, to hide the curves that had always made her different. Too soft. Too round. Too much for a pack that prized slender, delicate Omegas. She swallowed hard. I accept your rejection. The formal words tasted like poison. That's when the statue shattered. The ancient monument to the moon goddess, standing sentinel over Silvercrest ceremonial grounds for 200 years, simply exploded. Stone fragments whistled through the air. Someone screamed. Wolves dove for cover. But Elara couldn't move. The silver dust settled over her like snow, clinging to her dark hair, her dress, her skin. It should have been cold. Instead it felt warm. Alive. And she swore she heard a voice, finally. What the hell? Kieran stumbled backward, his face pale. The crowd erupted into chaos. Pack members shouted. Warriors formed protective circles around the young and elderly. Alpha Marcus Silvercrest pushed through the masses, his face thunderous. Everyone calmed down. His alpha command rolled over them like a physical force, pressing wolves into silence. It's just old stone. The structure was unstable. The structure has stood for 2 centuries. The new voice cut through the night like a blade. Every wolf froze. Elara looked up, really looked, for the first time since Kieran's rejection. A man stood at the edge of the ceremonial grounds, half hidden in shadow. No, not a man. An alpha. She could feel his power from here, a pressure in the air that made her wolf whimper and press low. But not in fear. In recognition. He stepped into the moonlight, and Elara forgot how to breathe. Alpha King Darius Bloodmane was a legend made flesh. Well over 6 feet of raw power wrapped in black clothing that probably cost more than her family's house. Dark hair pulled back from a face too harsh to be handsome but too compelling to look away from. And his eyes, God, his eyes, like molten gold, currently locked on her with an intensity that made her skin prickle. Your Majesty. Alpha Marcus dropped into a bow so low it was practically groveling. We didn't expect you to attend our small ceremony. Clearly. Darius moved forward with a predator's grace, his gaze never leaving Elara. Otherwise you might have ensured your beta had better manners. Kieran's face flushed red. My lord, I was simply publicly humiliating an Omega during a sacred ceremony. Darius's tone could have frozen fire. Yes, I witnessed the entire display. Elara wanted to disappear. Having the Alpha King witness her rejection was somehow worse than having her pack see it. She tried to step back, to fade into the crowd, but her legs wouldn't cooperate. The silver dust coating her skin seemed to pulse with each beat of her heart. Darius stopped 3 feet away. Up close, he was even more overwhelming. The scent of him, pine and smoke and something wild, wrapped around her senses. "What's your name, Omega?" His voice was gentler now. Almost tender. "Elara Thorn, Your Majesty." She managed a clumsy curtsy, nearly tripping over her own feet. "Elara." He said her name like he was tasting it. "Look at me." She didn't want to. Looking at him felt dangerous, like staring into the sun. But an Alpha King's request wasn't really a request. She lifted her eyes to his. The world tilted. For just a moment, a single, impossible moment, she felt everything. A connection that blazed through her like lightning. A recognition so deep it felt carved into her bones. Her wolf surged forward, pressing against her skin, desperate to. No. That was impossible. She'd just been rejected. The mate bond was severed. She couldn't feel anything like this. But Darius's eyes widened slightly, and she knew, he felt it too. "Interesting," he murmured. Alpha Marcus cleared his throat. "Your Majesty, if there's anything we can do to make amends for this incident." "Actually, there is." Darius finally broke eye contact with Elara, though she could still feel his awareness of her like a physical touch. "I've been searching for an Omega consultant to advise on welfare reforms in the capital. Someone who understands the challenges Omegas face in traditional pack structures." Elara's stomach dropped. He couldn't mean. The position requires someone who's experienced dismissal. Prejudice. Someone whose perspective hasn't been valued. His eyes flicked to Kieran with clear disdain before returning to her. "Miss Thorne appears uniquely qualified." "Oh, I couldn't possibly," Elara started. "She'd be honored." Alpha Marcus interrupted, his smile so wide it looked painful. "Absolutely honored, Your Majesty. What an opportunity for our pack." "I'm not asking the pack." Darius's voice carried an edge now. "I'm asking Elara." Every eye turned to her. The weight of their attention pressed down like a physical thing. Kieran stared at her with something that might have been panic. The other pack members looked calculating, already wondering how they could use this connection to the Alpha King. But Darius just waited, patient as stone, his golden eyes giving nothing away. Elara's mind raced. Leave Silvercrest? Leave everything she'd ever known? Go to the capital with the most powerful alpha in the kingdom, a male who somehow made her wolf respond despite a severed mate bond? It was insane. But staying here, watching Kieran choose someone else, enduring the pitying looks and cruel whispers, that was a different kind of insanity. "Yes," she heard herself say. "I'll come." Darius smiled. It transformed his entire face, softening the harsh angles into something almost beautiful. "Excellent. We leave at dawn." He turned to go, then paused, glancing back at her. "Bring only what matters. Everything else will be provided." The crowd erupted into whispers the moment he disappeared into the darkness. Alpha Marcus immediately began barking orders about preparing for her departure. Pack members swarmed her with questions she couldn't answer. Through it all, Elara felt Kieran's stare burning into her back. She turned slowly to face him. He stood exactly where she'd left him, still on the platform, his hand pressed to his chest. His face had gone gray, his breathing shallow. As she watched, he stumbled, catching himself against a wooden post. "Kieran?" One of his friends moved toward him. "You okay?" "The bond," Kieran gasped. His eyes found Elara's across the distance, wide with shock and something that looked like fear. "I can still feel the bond. It's burning, it shouldn't be possible." But Elara didn't stay to hear the rest. She turned and walked away from her former mate, from her pack, from everything she'd ever known. The silver dust from the shattered statue still clung to her skin, glowing faintly in the moonlight. And somewhere in the darkness, she could feel golden eyes watching her leave. Wanting to see what would happen next, subscribe to this channel to get to listen to more of our upcoming exciting stories. Click on the subscribe button now. Thank you. Chapter 2. The blood-maned court rose from the mountainside like a crown of black stone and silver spires, beautiful and terrible in equal measure. Elara pressed her face against the carriage window, watching the fortress grow larger as they climbed the winding road. She'd been traveling for 3 days with Darius and his personal guard, 3 days of stilted conversation and loaded silences, of catching the Alpha King watching her with those unreadable golden eyes. He sat across from her now, perfectly still in a way that reminded her he was a predator wearing human skin. Nervous? He asked. Terrified, she admitted. No point in lying. He could probably smell her fear. Something that might have been amusement flickered across his face. Good. Fear will keep you sharp. He leaned forward slightly. Listen to me carefully, Elara. The court is dangerous. More dangerous than anything you've faced in your sheltered pack life. Trust no one. Especially not the ones who smile. Not even you. The words slipped out before she could stop them. She bit her lip, waiting for his anger. Instead, he smiled, a real smile that made him look younger, less like the unmated tyrant and more like a man. Especially not me. The carriage rolled through massive gates that groaned shut behind them with a finality that made Elara's wolf whine. Stone walls rose on all sides, blocking out the afternoon sun. Guards lined the courtyard, hundreds of them, all watching with cold eyes as she stepped out onto cobblestones that probably cost more than her entire pack's annual income. His Majesty has returned, someone shouted. The courtyard exploded into motion. Servants rushed forward. Officials in elaborate robes materialized from doorways. A woman in silver priestess garments glided down the main steps, her face a mask of serene beauty that didn't reach her ice-blue eyes. Your Majesty, she purred, bowing low. We're blessed by your safe return. Though we weren't expecting company. Her gaze slid to Elara with the precision of a knife finding flesh. High Priestess Morgana, Darius said coolly. May I present Miss Elara Thorne, my new Omega consultant. She'll be advising on welfare reforms. Morgana's smile could have cut glass. How progressive of you, Your Majesty. Though I must say, she reeks of false prophecy. The goddess's scent is all wrong on her. Elara flinched. She still had traces of the silver dust from the shattered statue clinging to her skin. She'd tried washing it off, but it wouldn't budge. The goddess's scent, Darius said softly, is not yours to interpret. The temperature in the courtyard seemed to drop 10 degrees. Morgana's smile froze. Of course, Your Majesty. Forgive my presumption. But her eyes promised retribution as she looked at Elara again. The next hour passed in a blur. Servants whisked Elara through endless corridors of black marble and blood-red tapestries. Her quarters turned out to be a suite larger than her family's entire house, decorated in shades of cream and gold that felt too expensive to touch. The evening feast begins at sunset, her assigned maid, a nervous young Omega named Clara, told her while unpacking Elara's meager belongings. You'll sit with the court. His Majesty insists you attend. Where do I sit? Clara's hands stilled. At his right hand, miss. What? Elara's stomach dropped. That can't be right. That's a place of honor, usually reserved for his mate. Yes, miss. Clara wouldn't meet her eyes. Everyone's talking about it. The king has never seated anyone there. Not in the 15 years he's ruled. Elara sank onto the edge of the massive bed. This was a mistake. She didn't belong here, in this palace of stone and secrets, sitting at the right hand of a king who looked at her like he was trying to solve a puzzle. Clara, she said quietly. Why do they call him the unmated tyrant? The maid glanced at the door nervously before answering. Because he's refused every potential mate presented to him. Hundreds of omegas, betas, even other alphas, all rejected. And when the council pushed too hard 5 years ago, insisting he needed an heir, she swallowed. He executed 3 of them for treason. Said his mating was no one's concern but his own. That's barbaric. That's survival, miss. The king has enemies. A mate would be a weakness, a target. Clara pulled out the one formal dress Alara owned, a simple green gown that suddenly seemed impossibly plain. He's protected the kingdom by remaining alone. Most respect him for it. And the others? They fear him. Clara laid the dress on the bed. As they should. As we all should. The great hall could have swallowed Silvercrest's entire pack house 3 times over. Alara stood frozen in the doorway, staring at the impossible grandeur. Hundreds of wolves filled the space, nobles in silk and jewels, warriors in formal leathers, advisors in robes bearing different house sigils. Chandeliers hung from the vaulted ceiling like captured stars. The head table sat on a raised dais, and behind it hung a massive banner bearing the Bloodmane crest, a wolf's head wreathed in silver flame. Every eye turned to her as she entered. The whispers started immediately. That's her. She's so round. What could the king possibly want with? Silence. Darius's voice cut through the murmurs like a blade through silk. He stood at the center of the head table, devastating in black formal wear that highlighted every hard line of his body. When his eyes found hers across the distance, Alara forgot how to breathe. He held out his hand. Not a request. A command. Her legs moved on autopilot, carrying her through the sea of staring faces. The walk to the dais felt like miles. When she finally reached the table, she saw the empty chair to his right, and the furious faces of the advisors who sat beyond it. Darius took her hand, his touch sending electricity racing up her arm. You look beautiful, he murmured, so quietly only she could hear. Alara nearly laughed. She looked plain. Especially compared to the stunning wolves around them, dripping in jewels and designer gowns. But something in his eyes said he meant it. He seated her personally, his hand lingering a moment too long on her shoulder. The feast was torture. Alara could feel the hatred radiating from the other end of the table, where a gorgeous blonde Omega sat surrounded by her equally stunning friends. The woman, Lady Seraphine, according to Clara, kept shooting Alara looks that promised murder while laughing prettily at something a warrior said. Ignore her, Darius said quietly, cutting into his meat with precise movements. Seraphine has been trying to gain my attention for years. Your presence irritates her. I'm not trying to gain your attention, Alara protested. I know. He took a sip of wine. That's why you have it. Before she could process that statement, a serving girl stumbled, right into Alara. Red wine splashed across her green dress, soaking through to her skin. Oh no, the girl gasped. I'm so clumsy. Please forgive me, miss. But Alara had seen Lady Seraphine's foot snake out at the last second, tripping the poor servant. Seen the cruel satisfaction in her eyes. It's fine, Alara said, even as her dress dripped wine onto the expensive chair. Accidents happen. No, Darius said flatly. They don't. His eyes found the serving girl, who'd gone white as snow. Then shifted to Lady Seraphine, whose smile faltered. Take the girl to the kitchens, he ordered a nearby guard. Find out who instructed her to carry that specific wine carafe to this specific location. Your Majesty, really, it's not necessary, Alara started. Someone, he said, voice soft and deadly, just attempted to humiliate my guest at my own table. That is a direct insult to me. His gaze swept the hall. Let me be clear. Anyone who harms Miss Thorne, through action or negligence, will answer to me personally. The silence that followed was absolute. Lady Seraphine looked like she'd swallowed glass. After the feast, Alara fled to her quarters, desperate to escape the stares and whispers. But sleep wouldn't come. Near midnight, she gave up and decided to explore the castle, hoping exhaustion would eventually claim her. The Blood Main Court was a maze of corridors and staircases that seemed to shift when she wasn't looking. She got lost twice, turned around 3 times, and was about to give up when she heard voices echoing from an open doorway. "Obsession is going to destroy you." Elara froze. That was Darius's voice. "You don't understand," came the reply, an older male, rough with age. "I've served your family for 50 years. I knew your father, your grandfather. And I'm telling you, this path leads to ruin. My path is my own, Aldrich. Your path involves that Omega girl. The one who looks exactly like." The older wolf stopped abruptly. "You're using her. Trying to recreate something that's gone. Something that should stay gone." Silence. "Then, get out. Your Majesty. Get out." Footsteps approached the door. Elara spun, looking for somewhere to hide, but it was too late. An elderly wolf with silver hair emerged, nearly colliding with her. His eyes widened. You shouldn't be here." "I got lost," Elara stammered. "I didn't mean to eavesdrop. Go back to your rooms." His voice was urgent now, almost frightened. "Lock your door. Don't trust anyone, especially not." He cut himself off, glancing back at the room. "Especially not who?" Elara whispered. But he was already walking away, moving with surprising speed for his age. Elara stood alone in the corridor, her heart racing. She should leave. Return to her quarters like the old wolf suggested. But her feet carried her forward instead, toward the doorway he'd emerged from. It was a study. Books lined the walls floor to ceiling, and a fire crackled in an enormous hearth. But what caught her attention was the painting above the mantel. A woman. Young, beautiful, with dark hair and curves that defied the Omega ideal. She wore an ancient style of dress, and around her neck hung a pendant that seemed to glow even in the portrait. She looked exactly like Elara. "You found her." Elara spun. Darius stood in a doorway she hadn't noticed, still in his formal clothes but with his jacket removed, shirt partially unlaced. He looked dangerous and tired and somehow vulnerable. "Who is she?" Elara's voice came out barely above a whisper. Her name was Lyanna. He moved into the room, stopping beside her to stare up at the portrait. She was the Oracle. The last one, before the bloodline supposedly died out 200 years ago. Elara's skin prickled. "Why does she look like me?" "I don't know." But something in his voice said he was lying. "I've been searching for answers for years. When I saw you at that ceremony, standing in the ruins of the moon goddess's statue, covered in that silver dust." He turned to face her fully. "Do you believe in reincarnation, Elara?" "I believe in science. Genetics. Not ancient prophecies." "Then explain this." He crossed to a bookshelf, pulling out a leather-bound journal. The pages were yellowed with age as he flipped through them. Lyanna's last recorded words before she died: "I will return when the statue falls and the false bonds shatter. Watch for me in the one they reject, for she will be the key to everything." The room tilted. Elara grabbed the back of a chair for support. That's impossible." "Is it?" Darius stepped closer. "Your mate rejected you. The statue shattered the same night. And now you're here. Another step. Tell me you don't feel it. This pull between us. This connection that shouldn't exist." She wanted to deny it. Wanted to tell him he was crazy, that this was all coincidence. But she'd never been good at lying. "I feel it," she whispered. "But it's impossible. The mate bond was severed. I can't feel anything like this. Unless," he said softly, "it wasn't a mate bond at all. Unless Kieran was never truly your mate. Just a placeholder. A false bond meant to be broken so you could find your way here. That's insane. Is it? Or is it prophecy?" Before she could answer, alarm bells shattered the night. Darius's head snapped up, his entire body going rigid. "Stay here," he commanded, already moving toward the door. "What's happening?" "Someone breached the castle." He was fast, but Alara was faster, her Omega agility letting her keep pace as they raced through corridors filling with guards. They burst into a ballroom where a formal reception was underway, or had been, before chaos erupted. Screaming guests fled toward the exits. Warriors formed protective circles around important nobles. And in the center of it all, a figure in black moved with deadly grace, cutting through guards like paper. An assassin. Heading straight for Darius. Time seemed to slow. Alara saw the silver blade in the assassin's hand, saw the angle of approach, saw that the guards wouldn't reach Darius in time. Her body moved before her mind caught up. She threw herself forward, putting her body between Darius and the blade. The silver cut deep into her shoulder, burning like liquid fire. She gasped, stumbling, and felt Darius catch her. "No," he snarled. "No, no, no." But Alara barely heard him. She was staring at her own blood, dripping onto the white marble floor. Her blood, which wasn't red. It glowed. Pure golden light, bright enough to illuminate the entire ballroom, pulsing with each beat of her heart. The assassin stumbled back, shocked. Guards finally reached them, subduing the attacker with brutal efficiency. But no one was watching the capture. They were all staring at Alara. At the impossible, unmistakable mark of oracle blood glowing like liquid sun on her skin. "Well," breathed High Priestess Morgana from somewhere in the crowd, her voice carrying a mixture of awe and horror. "The prophecy is true." Darius lifted Alara into his arms, cradling her against his chest. His eyes blazed with something between triumph and obsession as he looked down at her. Finally, he whispered, so quietly only she could hear. "You've awakened." Then the world faded to gold and shadow, and Alara knew nothing more. Wanting to see what would happen next, subscribe to this channel to get to listen to more of our upcoming exciting stories. Click on the subscribe button now. Thank you. Chapter 3. Pain woke her. Not the sharp agony of the silver wound, that had faded to a dull throb. This was different. A pulling sensation behind her breastbone, like something was trying to claw its way out of her chest. Alara's eyes snapped open to unfamiliar surroundings. The room was enormous, decorated in deep blues and silver that reminded her of moonlight on water. A fire crackled in a hearth large enough to stand in. Through floor-to-ceiling windows, she could see the sun rising over mountains that stretched to infinity. And in a chair beside her bed sat the Alpha King, still wearing his blood-stained clothes from last night. His head rested against the chair back, eyes closed, but she knew he wasn't sleeping. Alphas didn't sleep when there was danger. They waited. They watched. "You're awake," he said without opening his eyes. "Where am I?" "My private wing." Now he looked at her, and the exhaustion in his face made him seem almost human. "No one can reach you here without going through me first. So I'm your prisoner. You're my responsibility." He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "You threw yourself in front of a silver blade meant for me. An oracle revealing herself makes you the most valuable, and most vulnerable, wolf in the kingdom." Alara sat up slowly, wincing as her shoulder protested. Someone had bandaged it, and her ruined dress had been replaced with a silk nightgown that probably cost more than everything she'd ever owned combined. "The blood," she whispered. It really glowed. Like the sun. Something flickered in his eyes. "You have no idea what you are, do you? What you're capable of?" "I'm a rejected Omega from a nowhere pack who apparently has weird blood. That's all I know." Darius stood, pacing to the windows. Dawn light turned his dark hair bronze. "You're descended from the oracle line. Wolves blessed, or cursed, depending on who you ask, with the ability to see fate itself. The threads that connect us all, the paths we're destined to walk." He turned back to her. 200 years ago, the last oracle was a woman named Celestia. She served my ancestor, the Alpha King of that era, as his advisor and seer. The woman in the portrait, Alara said. The one who looks like me. Yes. Celestia prophesied many things, wars, alliances, the rise and fall of bloodlines. But her final prophecy, spoken moments before she died, has haunted my family for generations. His jaw tightened. She said her bloodline would return when the kingdom needed it most, that the new oracle would either save or damn all wolfkind. And that she would know which when she read the words of ending. The words of what? An ancient prophecy carved into the foundation stone of this castle. Written in a language only oracle blood can reveal. He crossed back to her, standing close enough that she had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. I need you to read it, Alara. A war is coming. The Nightshade Pack has been gathering forces in the northern territories, ferals, rogues, wolves cast out of their packs. They're building an army, and every spy I send doesn't come back. And you think this prophecy will tell you how to stop them? I think it will tell me the cost of stopping them. His hand lifted, hovering near her face but not quite touching. Will you help me? It wasn't really a question. She could see that in his eyes. If she refused, he'd find a way to make her comply. But something in his expression, a vulnerability he was trying hard to hide, made her want to help him anyway. Yes, she said quietly. But I want answers. Real ones. No more cryptic non-explanations. Fair enough. He stepped back, putting distance between them. What do you want to know? Everything. Starting with why everyone's so terrified of you. A bitter smile touched his lips. Because I've earned their fear. I took the throne at 18 when my father was assassinated. The kingdom was falling apart, packs warring with each other, rogues terrorizing villages, the council trying to split the territory into feudal states. I stopped it all. Sometimes with diplomacy. His eyes went cold. Often with violence. I did what was necessary to create stability, and I made sure no one would ever question my authority again. By executing people who suggested you take a mate. By executing traitors who tried to use the mate bond as a leash. His voice turned sharp. They didn't care about my happiness or an heir. They wanted control. A mate they could manipulate, who would manipulate me in turn. He moved to a cabinet, pouring himself a drink. I swore I'd never give anyone that power over me. Yet here I am. In your private wing. With access you've apparently never given anyone. His hand stilled on the glass. You're different. How? I don't know yet. He downed the drink in one swallow. But I intend to find out. Before Alara could respond, the pulling sensation in her chest intensified. She gasped, hand flying to her breastbone. What's wrong? Darius was at her side instantly. I don't know. It feels like something's pulling. She stopped, staring at her own hand. She could see through it. No, not through it. She could see beyond it, to something underneath the physical world. Threads. Hundreds of them, thousands, connecting everything in a web of light that stretched beyond her vision. Oh God, she whispered. You're seeing them. Darius's voice held something like wonder. The bonds. He was right. Now that she knew what she was looking at, she could make sense of the chaos. Each thread connected two people, some bright gold, others silver, still others in shades of red or blue or green. Family bonds, friendship bonds, pack bonds, all tangled together in an impossible tapestry. And stretching from her own chest, blazing so bright it hurt to look at, was a golden thread that led directly to Darius. A mate bond. No, she breathed. That's impossible. His brow furrowed. What do you see? She couldn't tell him. Wouldn't tell him. Because if she could see it and he couldn't, that meant nothing, she lied. Just a lot of threads. It's overwhelming. But Darius was watching her with those two sharp eyes, and she knew he didn't believe her. A knock at the door saved her from further questions. "Your Majesty," came a guard's voice. "You have a visitor. Beta Kieran Ashwood of Silvercrest. He's demanding an audience and refuses to leave." Every muscle in Alara's body went rigid. Darius's eyes narrowed. Did he state his business? He claims the rejection was made under duress. He's demanding Miss Thorne be returned to him. Like hell, Darius growled. He looked at Alara. "Do you want to see him?" Part of her, the part that had loved Kieran since childhood, wanted to say yes. Wanted to hear his explanation, to understand why he'd suddenly changed his mind. But the rest of her, the part that remembered the humiliation and pain, that could still hear his words echoing in her mind, wanted nothing to do with him. "I'll see him," she said finally. "But not alone." "Good." Darius's smile held no warmth. "Because I want to be there when you tell him to go to hell." They met in a formal receiving room that reeked of power and intimidation. Darius sat on a throne-like chair, every inch the Alpha King. Alara stood to his right, not seated, but positioned like a queen might stand beside her king. And the golden thread connecting them hummed with energy she couldn't ignore. When the doors opened and Kieran walked through, Alara's breath caught. He looked terrible. Dark circles under his eyes, weight loss making his face gaunt, and his hands shook slightly as he bowed to Darius. "Your Majesty. Thank you for seeing me." "I'm not seeing you for your benefit," Darius said coldly. Alara agreed to this meeting. "Speak quickly." Kieran's eyes found hers, desperate and pleading. "Alara, I made a mistake. The rejection, I wasn't thinking clearly. There was this voice in my head, pushing me, telling me you were wrong, that I needed someone else." A voice. Her own voice came out flat. "You rejected me because of a voice in your head. It wasn't me." He stepped forward, and immediately 2 guards moved to block him. "Please, you have to believe me. Something's been wrong since that night. The bond, I can still feel it, and it's rotting inside me like poison." Alara's vision shifted without warning. She could see it. The thread connecting her to Kieran, the one that should have been severed completely by the rejection. It was still there, but Kieran was right. It wasn't gold or even the dull gray of a broken bond. It was black. Putrid. Rotting from the inside out like diseased flesh, and wrapped around it were other threads, foreign threads in a sickly green that pulsed with malevolent intent. "Witchcraft," Darius breathed. He'd stood, moving to her side, his hand on her elbow. "You're seeing it, aren't you?" Something corrupted his bond. She nodded mutely, unable to tear her eyes away from the horrifying sight. "Alara, please," Kieran begged. "Help me. It's killing me. The pack healers say if the bond isn't restored soon, I'll..." He doubled over, gasping, and she saw the black threads constrict around his chest. "Please. Restore the bond?" Darius's voice could have frozen hell. "You publicly rejected her, humiliated her in front of hundreds, and now you expect her to tie herself back to you because you're suffering the consequences? I didn't know what I was doing." "That's not her problem." Darius turned to Alara. "The choice is yours. If you want to help him, I won't stop you. But know this, the moment you restore that bond, you'll be tied to whatever curse is eating him alive." Alara looked at Kieran. Really looked at him. The male she'd loved, who'd loved her back once upon a time, before something twisted it all into poison. And she felt nothing. No desire to help him. No lingering affection. Just exhaustion and a hollow sort of pity. "No," she said quietly. Kieran's face crumpled. "Alara. You made your choice that night, Kieran. You looked at me in front of everyone and decided I wasn't worth standing beside. That I was an embarrassment." Her voice didn't shake. She was proud of that. "I don't know what's wrong with you, and I'm sorry you're suffering. But I'm not going to chain myself to your curse to ease your pain. But I'll die." The words came out as a sob. "Then die." Darius's tone held no sympathy. Guards, escort Beta Ashwood from the castle. If he returns without permission, execute him. No. Please, Elara, please. But the guards were already dragging him away, his pleas echoing down the corridor until a door slammed shut. Silence fell. Elara's hands were shaking. She clasped them together, willing them to stop. You did the right thing, Darius said quietly. Did I? He's dying, and I just... You survived. He turned her to face him, hands on her shoulders. Whatever curse is killing him, it's not your responsibility. You didn't put it there. But who did? And why? Questions I intend to answer. His jaw tightened. But first, we need to read that prophecy. If someone's using witchcraft to manipulate mate bonds, it might be connected to the coming war. The foundation stone lay in the deepest part of the castle, in a chamber that predated the current structure by centuries. The walls were rough-hewn rock, and in the center sat a massive stone covered in symbols that hurt to look at. Oracle script, Darius explained, lighting torches around the chamber. Invisible to everyone except those with oracle blood. Elara approached slowly, her new sight making the stone practically glow. The symbols shifted and moved, rearranging themselves into words she could somehow read despite never having learned the language. What does it say? Darius stood close behind her, close enough that she could feel his warmth. She read aloud, her voice echoing in the stone chamber. When the oracle's blood returns to wake, the cursed king will face his fate. The mate bond forged in fire and moon will bring salvation or bring doom. For the king bears a shadow's mark, born of jealousy, rage, and dark. On the night his true mate shifts her form, his hand will strike through love's warm storm. The oracle mate must choose with care. Complete the bond or break it there. If she accepts knowing death may come, the curse will break, the battle won. But if she flees from fate's cruel game, the kingdom falls to war and flame. Both paths lead through pain and loss. Love demands the highest cost. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Elara turned slowly to face Darius. You knew. You've known about this curse your entire life. His face had gone carefully blank. Yes. That's why you never took a mate. Why you executed anyone who pushed you toward one. Yes. You're cursed to kill your fated mate. Her voice barely worked. On the night of her first shift into her true form. Oracle wolves don't shift until their power fully awakens, he said quietly. Usually around their 25th year. You turned 24 3 months ago, didn't you? Horror crawled up her spine. How did you know that? Because I've been tracking you for 5 years, Elara. Ever since my spies reported a female in Silvercrest who looked exactly like Celestia's portraits. He stepped closer, and she saw something raw and desperate in his eyes. I knew what you were before you did. I knew about the curse, about the prophecy, about everything. And I stayed away because I thought if I never met you, never completed the bond, you'd be safe. Then why bring me here? Her voice rose. Why seat me at your right hand? Why keep me in your private wing? Why? Because war is coming. The words came out harsh. Because the Nightshade Pack is building an army that will destroy everything. Because the prophecy says you're the only one who can stop it, and I'm selfish enough to risk your life for the kingdom. He grabbed her arms, his grip just short of painful. I'm not a good male, Elara. I'm a tyrant who's made terrible choices and will make more. But I'm trying to save millions of lives, and I need you to help me do it. The golden thread between them blazed so bright it was almost blinding. You can see it, she whispered, watching his face. The bond. You know we're mates. I've known since the moment I saw you standing in those ruins, covered in silver dust and refusing to cry despite your broken heart. His voice dropped. I felt the bond snap into place, and I wanted to kill Kieran for daring to touch what was mine. But the curse says your mate has to choose. Elara pulled free of his grip, needing space to think. Complete the bond knowing I might die, or refuse and watch the kingdom burn. I won't force you. Darius's hands fell to his sides. You can leave right now. Go back to Silvercrest, hide in some remote territory, live a long quiet life. I'll find another way to stop the war. Will you? No. The admission came out raw. But I'll try. I won't sacrifice you just to save myself the trouble of finding a harder path. Elara looked at him, really looked. Past the crown and the power, past the reputation and the fear. She saw exhaustion and loneliness, sacrifice and determination. A male who'd carried the weight of a kingdom for 15 years, who'd isolated himself to protect a mate he'd never met from a curse he couldn't control. A male who was staring at her like she was the answer to every question he'd never dared to ask. The bond hummed between them, full of promise and peril. I need time, she said finally. To think. To understand what I'm choosing. You have until your first shift. His jaw tightened. After that, the choice may be taken from both of us. How long? Oracle shifts are unpredictable. It could be tomorrow. It could be a year from now. He turned away, shoulders rigid with tension. But when it happens, Elara, stay away from me. Lock yourself somewhere safe and don't come near me until dawn. Because the curse doesn't give me a choice. When you shift, I will hunt you. And I won't be able to stop myself from killing you. The words hung between them like a blade. Then we'd better break this curse, Elara said quietly, before that happens. Darius looked back at her, something like hope flickering in his golden eyes. Outside, storm clouds gathered on the horizon, dark and full of promise. And in the north, an army of ferals began their march south. If you're still listening to this story up to this point, why don't you subscribe to this channel to continue getting impactful daily stories like this? We would be most grateful if you can do that to help boost this video to reach everyone. Thank you. Chapter 4. The blade whistled past Elara's ear, close enough to feel the wind of its passage. Too slow, barked Commander Lissa, a scarred Omega warrior who looked like she could snap steel with her bare hands. Your enemy won't wait for you to find your courage. Again. Elara rolled to her feet, wooden practice sword heavy in her grip. Sweat dripped into her eyes. Every muscle screamed. She'd been training for 3 hours in this hidden chamber beneath the castle, far from the pristine hallways where court Omegas sipped tea and gossiped. I'm trying. Trying isn't surviving. Lissa struck without warning, blade arcing toward Elara's ribs. But this time, Elara was ready. She could see the threads now, not just mate bonds, but the tiny connections between body and intention, the split-second tells that preceded every movement. She shifted left, Lissa's blade meeting empty air, and swept her own sword at the commander's legs. Lissa jumped, landing with cat-like grace, but something like approval flickered in her eyes. Better. You're learning to use your sight. She's a natural, said another voice from the shadows. A small Omega with burned scars covering half her face stepped into the torchlight. I've never seen anyone pick up combat technique this fast. That's because she's cheating, Lissa said, but she was smiling. Oracle blood gives her an unfair advantage. She can see what we're going to do before we do it. Then maybe we should all get Oracle blood, the scarred Omega, Vera, said Drilly. It had been 2 weeks since Elara read the prophecy. 2 weeks of secret training sessions, of learning that the Blood Main Court had something no one talked about, an entire battalion of Omega warriors, hidden from public view, trained to protect the kingdom from threats regular wolves couldn't handle. Why does no one know you exist? Elara had asked during her first session. Lissa's expression had gone hard. Because the old families, the noble houses, they prefer their Omegas decorative and submissive. The Alpha King uses us because he's practical, but he can't publicly acknowledge us without sparking a political crisis. So we train in shadows, fight in silence, and die without recognition. That's horrible. That's survival. Lissa had handed her a practice blade. Now, Are you here to pity us or join us? Elara had joined. Now, as Lissa called an end to the session, Elara collapsed onto a bench, gulping water from a flask. The other Omega warriors moved around the chamber, practicing forms, sparring, maintaining weapons with casual efficiency. They were nothing like the court Omegas she'd met. No silk gowns or painted faces. These wolves wore leather and scars like badges of honor. They moved with confidence, spoke without asking permission, and looked at her with respect instead of disdain. You're getting better, Vera said, settling beside her. Give it another month and you might actually survive a real fight. Comforting, Elara muttered, but she smiled. Vera's expression turned serious. Is it true? What they're saying about you and the Alpha King? Depends what they're saying. That you're mates. That the bond is growing stronger every day. That he's losing his mind trying to stay away from you. Vera paused. That he's cursed to kill you. Elara's smile faded. Yes. All of it. Then why are you still here? Why not run? Because running won't stop a war. Elara set down the flask. And because I'm tired of being helpless. My whole life, I've been told I'm wrong body, wrong bond, wrong everything. I'm done letting other people define what I am. Even if what you are gets you killed. Even then. She met Vera's eyes. Besides, I have an idea. Something I've been experimenting with. Should I be worried? Probably. That night, Elara slipped through the castle's servant passages to a part of the court she'd learned about from the Omega warriors, the Pleasure District, where wolves came to indulge appetites the nobility pretended didn't exist. But Elara wasn't here for pleasure. She was here for Mira. She found the Omega in a dimly lit room, sporting fresh bruises that no amount of powder could hide. Mira was bonded to a noble alpha who used her as a punching bag between council meetings. Miss Thorne, Mira whispered, eyes wide with fear. You shouldn't be here. If anyone sees you, let them see. Elara stepped inside, closing the door. I'm here to help you. No one can help me. I'm bonded. The only way to break it is if he dies or rejects you. I know. Elara's new sight showed her the bond between Mira and her alpha, a sickly purple thread that pulsed with pain every few seconds. But what if there was another way? She'd been practicing in secret, testing the limits of her oracle abilities. She discovered she could see the bond's weak points, the places where they could be strengthened or severed. It terrified her, this power. The ability to reach into the fundamental connections between souls and reshape them. But watching Mira flinch at every sound, seeing the hopelessness in her eyes, Elara knew she had to try. This might hurt, she warned, reaching out with senses that had nothing to do with her physical hands. The bond resisted at first, fighting her touch like a living thing. But Elara was learning. She found the weak points, the places where abuse had eroded the connection's integrity, and she pulled. The thread snapped. Mira gasped, hand flying to her chest. I can't feel him anymore. The bond, it's gone. Then run, Elara said urgently. I have contacts in the Omega network. They'll hide you, get you out of the capital, set you up somewhere safe. But he'll come after me. He'll kill me for leaving. Not if he never finds you. Elara pressed a slip of paper into Myra's hand. Go to this address. Tell them Oracle sent you. Mira stared at her with something like worship. Thank you. Thank you. Don't thank me. Just live. Elara glanced at the door. And tell the others. Any Omega who needs help, who wants out of an abusive bond, they come to me. She'd helped 6 Omegas escape in the past week. Each time, she felt the weight of what she was doing, the power she was wielding, the laws she was breaking. Manipulating mate bonds was forbidden, punishable by death. But she couldn't stop. She should have known someone was watching. You're playing a dangerous game, little Oracle. Elara spun. High Priestess Morgana stepped from the shadows of the corridor, her silver robes gleaming in the torchlight. Behind her stood 2 temple guards, hands on their weapons. "I don't know what you're talking about," Alara said evenly. "Don't insult my intelligence." Morgana moved closer, and Alara could see her bond threads clearly, dozens of them, connecting her to wolves throughout the castle in a web of influence and control. "You've been severing bonds. Helping Omegas escape their mates. Did you think I wouldn't notice? Did you think I'd care if you did?" Morgana's smile was cold as winter. "Bold. The Alpha King must be rubbing off on you." She circled Alara like a predator. "Tell me, do you know why the Priestess Order exists? To serve the Moon Goddess. To maintain balance." Morgana stopped in front of her. "The mate bond is sacred. It's not meant to be broken on a whim just because an Omega is unhappy." "Unhappy?" Anger sparked in Alara's chest. "Myra's mate put her in the healer's wing twice last month. That's not unhappiness. That's abuse. That's a private matter between mates. It's murder waiting to happen. And you've appointed yourself judge and executioner?" Morgana's eyes glittered. "You sever bonds that don't please you, reshape connections to suit your agenda. You're no better than the tyrant king you've bound yourself to." The accusation stung because part of Alara wondered if it was true. She was playing with forces she barely understood, making life-altering decisions for other wolves. But then she thought of Myra's bruises. Of the other Omegas she'd helped, who'd wept with relief at their freedom. "If stopping abuse makes me a tyrant," Alara said quietly, "then I'll wear the title proudly." Such conviction. Morgana's expression shifted to something almost pitying. "Do you know what happens when the curse breaks, little oracle? What returns when the old powers awaken?" "No. Oracle wolves in their full power could reshape the entire kingdom. Break every bond, forge new ones, make wolves love or hate at their whim." Morgana leaned in close. "Your ancestors nearly destroyed us all before we learned to contain them. The curse on the Alpha King? It's not a curse. It's a safeguard. A way to ensure no oracle ever grows powerful enough to threaten the natural order again." Alara's blood ran cold. "You put the curse on his family. My predecessor did, 200 years ago, when Celestia grew too powerful. When she started talking about reshaping wolf society and freeing the oppressed." Morgana's smile was sharp. "Sound familiar? That's why you don't want it broken. Not because it's necessary, because it keeps oracles weak. It keeps everyone safe." Morgana stepped back. "But I can see you won't be dissuaded. So let me make this clear, continue your little rebellion, and I'll make sure every wolf in this castle knows what you're doing. They'll tear you apart themselves, curse or no curse. The mate bond is sacred, oracle. You violate it at your peril." She swept away, guards following, leaving Alara alone in the corridor with her racing thoughts. She found Darius in his study, surrounded by battle maps and reports from the Northern Territories. He looked up when she entered, and the hunger in his eyes made her breath catch. It was getting worse. The bond pulled at both of them constantly now, an ache that never faded. She'd catch him staring at her during council meetings. He'd find excuses to touch her, a hand at her elbow, fingers brushing hers when passing documents. And she wanted him just as desperately. "You're bleeding," he said, rising from his chair. Alara glanced down. A thin line of blood traced her forearm. She'd scraped it during training and hadn't noticed. Darius crossed to her in 3 strides, taking her arm with surprising gentleness. "What happened?" "Training accident." Her voice came out breathier than intended. Having him this close, his thumb brushing her wrist, made her head swim. "It's nothing. It's not nothing." He grabbed a cloth, dabbing at the wound with focused intensity. "You need to be more careful. If something happened to you." "I'm not made of glass, Darius." "I know." His jaw tightened. "I've seen you train with Lissa. You're getting good. Strong. His eyes met hers, full of conflicting emotions. But it terrifies me. Every time you put yourself in danger, every risk you take. You don't get to control me. She pulled her arm free. I'm not your possession. You're my mate. The words burst out of him, raw and desperate. Every instinct I have screams at me to lock you away somewhere safe, to keep you from harm, he broke off, turning away. But I can't. Because you're right. You're not my possession. You're everything. The admission hung between them. Ilara's hand moved to her stomach without thinking. She'd been feeling strange lately, dizzy spells, heightened senses, an odd fullness in her abdomen. She'd attributed it to stress, to her awakening powers. But standing here, feeling the bond pulse between them, she suddenly knew. Darius, she whispered. I need to tell you something. He turned back, and whatever he saw in her face made him go still. What's wrong? I'm pregnant. The words dropped like stones into water. Darius stared at her, shock wiping every other emotion from his face. That's impossible. We've never. I know. Her hand stayed on her stomach, protective. But I can feel it. Something growing inside me. Not physical, not yet, but real. The bond. Understanding dawned in his eyes, followed immediately by horror. Your oracle powers are trying to anchor our connection. To make the bond so strong it can't be broken, even by the curse. But carrying this child will trigger your first shift. He crossed to her again, hands cupping her face. Ilara, pregnancy accelerates an oracle's transformation. You'll shift within weeks instead of months or years. Then we have weeks to break the curse. We don't know how to break it. His control was cracking, desperation bleeding through. The prophecy says you have to complete the bond, but it doesn't say how. And if we're wrong, if we try and fail, then I die. I know. She covered his hands with hers. But if we do nothing, the kingdom falls. The Nightshade Pack is already moving. Your spies say they'll reach the border within the month. I don't care about the kingdom. The confession burst out of him. Let it burn. Let the Nightshade Pack take it all. I won't sacrifice you. Yes, you will. She said it gently but firmly. Because you're a king before you're a mate. Because millions of lives depend on you making the hard choices. She pressed her forehead to his. And because I'm choosing this. I'm choosing to complete the bond, to face the curse, to save the kingdom even if it costs me everything. Ilara. I love you. The words came out simple and true. I don't know when it happened or how, but I do. And I won't let fear steal what little time we have. Darius made a sound like a wounded animal. Then his mouth was on hers, desperate and claiming, and she kissed him back with equal fervor. The bond blazed between them, golden and brilliant, and for one perfect moment, there was no curse, no war, no prophecy. Just them. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, his forehead rested against hers. We need to find Morgana's weakness, he said. If the priestess order created the curse, they must know how to break it. She'll never help us willingly. Then we make her. His eyes hardened. I'm done playing by rules designed to keep us powerless. A knock at the door interrupted them. Your Majesty. A guard burst in without waiting for permission. The Nightshade Pack, they've crossed the border. They're burning villages, killing everyone. And they're heading straight for the capital. Darius's expression went cold. How many? Thousands. Maybe tens of thousands. More than our scouts reported. The guard's face was pale. Your Majesty, they have dark wolves with them. Ferals transformed by blood magic into something worse. Kiran, Ilara breathed. The darkness infecting him, it's the same magic they're using. Darius met her eyes, and she saw the calculation there. The warrior king emerging, setting aside personal feelings for strategy. Gather the council, he ordered. Mobilize the army. And find me High Priestess Morgana. His smile was sharp enough to cut. It's time she and I had a conversation about curses and consequences. As the guard rushed away, Darius pulled Alara close one more time. Whatever happens, he said against her hair, know that you awakened something in me I thought long dead. You made me believe in hope again. We're going to survive this, she said fiercely. Both of us. I didn't come this far to lose you now. But even as she said it, she felt the first flutter in her abdomen, a pulse of power that was both her and not her. The child of the bond, growing stronger by the hour. Counting down the days until her shift. Until the curse activated. Until everything they'd built either saved them or destroyed them both. Outside, war drums echoed in the distance. And in the temple, Morgana smiled. If you're still listening to this story up to this point, why don't you subscribe to this channel to continue getting impactful daily stories like this? We would be most grateful if you can do that to help boost this video to reach everyone. Thank you. Chapter 5. The sky bled red. Alara stood at the window of Darius's war room, watching the blood moon rise over the capital. It hung low and swollen, painting everything in shades of crimson and shadow. Beautiful and terrible, like a wound in the heavens. It's time, she whispered. Behind her, Darius was surrounded by maps and commanders, orchestrating the defense of a city under siege. The Nightshade Pack had breached the outer walls an hour ago. The sounds of battle, screams, steel, the howls of dying wolves, drifted through the night air. The eastern gate won't hold much longer, General Aldrich reported, his face grim. They have some kind of creatures with them. Not wolves. Not anymore. They're tearing through our defenses like paper. Bond wraiths, Alara said, still staring at the moon. She could see them even from here, twisted threads of darkness where mate bonds should be, corrupted wolves who fed on connection itself. Kieran's not the only one infected. They've been creating an army of them. Darius's hand came to rest on her shoulder. How long do we have? He wasn't asking about the battle. An hour. Maybe less. Her hand moved to her stomach, where the bond child pulsed with increasing urgency. I can feel it starting. The shift. Every wolf in the room went still. Then we evacuate you now, Darius said, his voice allowing no argument. Lissa will take you to the safe house in the mountains. You'll be protected there. While you die fighting an unwinnable war? Alara turned to face him. While the kingdom burns because we were too afraid to face the curse? I won't risk you. It's not your choice. She moved closer, aware of every eye in the room watching them. The prophecy was clear. The oracle mate must choose to complete the bond, knowing death may come. Not run. Not hide. Choose. Alara. I'm choosing you. She took his hand, pressing it to her stomach where their impossible child grew. I'm choosing us. I'm choosing to believe that our bond is stronger than any curse. Darius's jaw worked, emotions warring across his face. Finally, he pulled her into his arms, holding her so tightly she could barely breathe. I love you, he said against her hair. If this fails, if I hurt you, then I'll know I tried. She pulled back to meet his eyes. But I don't think it will fail. I think the curse was always meant to be broken this way. Not through running or hiding, but through absolute trust. An explosion rocked the castle, sending dust raining from the ceiling. Your Majesty. A messenger burst through the door. The Nightshade forces are pushing toward the temple district. High Priestess Morgana has barricaded herself inside with her followers. They're performing some kind of ritual. Alara's blood ran cold. She's trying to make the curse permanent. Can she do that? General Aldrich demanded. If she completes the ritual before Alara shifts, yes. The voice came from the doorway. Lissa strode in, covered in blood that wasn't hers, followed by a dozen Omega warriors. My scouts report she's drawing power from the mate bonds throughout the city. Every bonded pair, she's draining them to fuel her magic. That will kill them, Alara breathed. Thousands of wolves will die to preserve her power. Lissa's expression was grim. She's announced that the Oracle Queen must be stopped. That you're a threat to the natural order. Natural order, Darius snarled. As if there's anything natural about the priestess order's control. He turned to his commanders. Split our forces. Half continue defending against the Nightshade Pack. The other half storms the temple. Your Majesty, if we divide our forces. The Nightshade Pack is a symptom. Morgana is the disease. His eyes blazed gold. We cut off the head, and the body will fall. General Aldrich, you have command of the city defense. Lissa, your Omega warriors are with me. We're taking the temple. I'm coming too, Alara said. Every wolf in the room started protesting at once. Darius raised a hand for silence. No. Absolutely not. She created this curse, Alara said firmly. My oracle blood is the key to breaking it. You need me there. What I need is for you to survive. And I will. But not by running. She drew herself up, channeling every ounce of authority she'd learned in her weeks at court. I'm the Oracle Queen, whether I've been crowned or not. And I'm going to face the wolf who's been controlling your bloodline for 2 centuries. Darius stared at her for a long moment. Then, slowly, he smiled, that rare, genuine smile that transformed his whole face. You're magnificent, he said. Terrifying and magnificent. I learned from the best. She smiled back. Now let's go break a curse. The streets ran red with blood and moonlight. Alara ran beside Darius, surrounded by Omega warriors who moved like shadows. All around them, the capital burned. Nightshade ferals hunted through the streets, their howls echoing off stone walls. Citizens fled in panic, or huddled in barricaded homes, or fought desperately with whatever weapons they could find. And through it all, Alara could see the threads. Thousands of them, connecting the city's wolves in an intricate web. But something was wrong. The bonds were fading, draining of color, being pulled toward a single point, the temple at the city's heart. She's killing them, Alara gasped, stumbling as the sheer weight of dying bonds hit her senses. Every mated pair in the capital, she's draining their connection to fuel the ritual. How long until they're gone? Darius caught her elbow, steadying her. Minutes. Alara could barely see through the tangle of threads. Maybe less. The bonds are breaking, oh God, Darius, when they break, all those wolves will die. Then we run faster. They raced through burning streets, cutting down ferals that got in their way. Lissa and her warriors fought like demons, protecting Alara on all sides. But there were so many enemies, an endless tide of corrupted wolves pouring through the breached walls. And ahead, rising above the carnage, stood the temple, its silver spires catching the blood moon's light like knives. They were 50 yards from the entrance when Kieran stepped into their path. Alara's breath caught. He was barely recognizable. His body had twisted, elongated, bones pushing against skin in unnatural angles. His eyes were black pits, and where his heart should be, a mass of writhing darkness consumed him from within. The corrupted bond between them stretched from his chest like a physical chain, rotting and vile. Alara, he rasped, his voice layered with something inhuman. Come back to me. Complete our bond. I'm so hungry. That's not Kieran anymore, Darius growled, moving to stand between them. That's a bond wraith. He'll consume you. I can save him. Alara stepped forward despite Darius's protest. She could see it now, the curse eating Kieran alive, yes, but underneath, a spark of the male she'd known. Corrupted but not yet extinguished. Kieran, fight it. You're stronger than the darkness. No. The wraith that wore Kieran's face smiled, showing too many teeth. The darkness is stronger. It showed me the truth, you were always meant to be mine. The moon goddess decreed it. And when I consume our bond, I'll finally be complete. He lunged. Darius met him mid-strike, Alpha King and Wraith colliding in an explosion of power. They grappled, supernatural strength against corrupted magic, tearing chunks from the street with the force of their blows. Go! Darius roared, hurling Kieran into a building. Get to the temple. I'm not leaving you. You're not dying for me. His eyes found hers, and she saw everything in them, love, fear, desperation. Please, Elara. Stop Morgana. Save the city. I'll handle this. Lissa grabbed her arm. He's right. We have to move. Elara wanted to argue. Wanted to stay and fight beside her mate. But another wave of dying bonds hit her senses, and she knew there was no time. She ran. The temple doors stood open, invitation and trap. Elara and the Omega warriors burst through into a nightmare scene. The main hall had been transformed into a ritual chamber. Hundreds of candles burned, their flames casting writhing shadows on the walls. And in the center, surrounded by chanting priestesses, stood Morgana. She looked like a goddess herself, terrible and beautiful, her silver robe stained with blood, her hands raised as power swirled around her. Above her head, a massive web of stolen bonds pulsed with sickly light. Ah, she said, lowering her hands but not stopping the chant. The Oracle Queen arrives. Right on schedule. Stop this, Elara demanded, stepping forward. You're killing innocent wolves. I'm saving the kingdom. Morgana's smile was serene. From you. From the chaos your kind always brings. She gestured to the walls, and Elara saw them for the first time, portraits covering every surface. Women who looked like her, like Celestia, stretching back through centuries. Every oracle ends the same way. They gain power, try to reshape society, and bring nothing but destruction. Because you killed them. Understanding crashed over Elara. The curse, it's not just on the Alpha King. It's on every oracle who awakens. You've been murdering them for generations. Containing them. Morgana corrected. Through their mates. It's elegant, really. Oracle power awakens through the mate bond, so we ensure that same bond becomes their death sentence. Elara's eyes found one portrait in particular, Celestia, beautiful and doomed, wearing the same pendant that hung around Elara's neck now. The pendant she'd found in Darius's study weeks ago. That she'd put on without thinking, feeling it settle against her skin like it belonged there. Celestia's pendant. Celestia who looked exactly like her. Celestia who had been. She was his mate, Elara breathed. In a previous life. Darius and Celestia, they were bonded. And you killed her. I freed him. Morgana's voice hardened. She wanted to overthrow the priestess order, to give Omegas the power to choose their own mates, to reshape bonds at will. She would have destroyed everything we'd built. She would have freed everyone you'd enslaved. She would have created chaos. Morgana's composure cracked. And when she tried to complete her bond with the Alpha King of that era, when she thought love would break my curse, I made sure he tore her throat out just like this one will tear out yours. Power exploded from Morgana, and Elara saw it, the truth written in threads of light. Darius wasn't cursed. He was possessed. For 200 years, every Alpha King had carried a fragment of Morgana's magic, dormant until their mate awakened. Then it would take control, turn them into murderers, and eliminate the Oracle threat before it could grow. You're a monster, Elara whispered. I'm a survivor. Morgana's hands rose again. And now, I'll make the curse permanent. No more oracles. No more threats. Just order, as the goddess intended. The goddess didn't intend this. Elara's power surged, her oracle sight expanding to encompass the entire city. She could see everything, every bond, every connection, the web of fate itself. You're a parasite feeding on wolf society, convincing everyone your control is divine will. And who will believe you? Morgana laughed. I am the High Priestess. I speak for the moon goddess herself. While you're just a fat Omega from nowhere who thinks she can change the world. The insult bounced off Elara like water off stone. She was so far beyond caring about Morgana's opinion. Instead, she reached out with her power, not to the stolen bonds Morgana was draining, but to the threads connecting the priestesses in the room. The bonds of loyalty, of belief, of control that Morgana had woven over decades. And she showed them the truth. The priestesses gasped as Elara's power flooded through them, revealing every manipulation, every lie, every wolf Morgana had sacrificed to maintain her power. They saw Celestia's murder. Saw the curse's true nature. Saw 200 years of oracles killed to preserve one wolf's authority. No, Morgana snarled. You can't. I already did. Elara's voice echoed with power. You wanted to control bonds? Let me show you what happens when bonds break. She pulled. The web of stolen connections shattered. Power exploded outward, returning to the wolves it had been stolen from. All across the city, mated pairs gasped as their bonds snapped back into place, stronger than before. Morgana screamed, her ritual collapsing. And outside, Elara felt it, the moment her shift began. Pain unlike anything she'd ever known tore through her body. Elara collapsed, her bones breaking and reforming, her skin rippling as power she'd never accessed before roared to life. The bond child in her womb pulsed with energy, anchoring her even as everything else fell apart. Elara. Lyssa's voice, distant and distorted. Through the agony, she saw Darius burst into the temple. Saw him take in the scene, Morgana's failed ritual, the freed priestesses, Elara writhing on the floor. Saw his eyes go black as the curse activated. No, she gasped. Darius, fight it. But the possession was complete. Darius moved toward her with predatory grace, his face a mask of ancient hatred, Morgana's magic controlling him like a puppet. Kill her, Morgana commanded from where she'd fallen. Complete the curse as you've done in every life. Kill your mate and preserve the order. Darius lunged. Time seemed to slow. Elara saw his hand reaching for her throat, saw the killing intent in those black eyes, saw the end of everything they'd fought for. And she made her choice. Instead of pulling away, she pulled him closer. Her hand found the pendant at her throat, Celestia's pendant, and she channeled every ounce of oracle power through it. The mate bond between them, already so strong it hurt, blazed like a sun. I love you, she whispered as his hand closed around her throat. In this life and every life. And I choose you. Always. She completed the bond. Power exploded. Not outward, but inward, the oracle blood and alpha king magic fusing so completely that there was no space for curses or possession or anything else. Two souls becoming one, so intertwined that the curse had nothing to latch onto. You cannot kill what is literally part of yourself. Darius's eyes cleared. His hand, still at her throat, gentled instantly. Elara? His voice broke. What did you? I saved us, she gasped. Both of us. The bond between them pulsed once, twice, then exploded outward in a wave of pure golden light. It rolled through the temple, through the city, purging corruption wherever it touched. Morgana shrieked as the light consumed her, burning away centuries of stolen power. She aged before their eyes, from middle-aged to elderly to ancient to ash, crumbling into nothing as the wolves she'd manipulated for generations were finally freed. Outside, the bond wraiths howled as the darkness was ripped from their bodies. Kieran collapsed in the street, his twisted form slowly returning to normal as the curse that had infected him dissolved. And in the north, the Nightshade Pack's dark wolves stumbled, their corrupted magic failing. Without Morgana's ritual sustaining them, they were just ferals again, dangerous but mortal. The blood main forces drove them back with renewed strength. Elara's shift completed. She stood on 4 legs for the first time, her wolf form massive and beautiful, her fur shimmering with threads of gold that pulsed with oracle power. And beside her, Darius shifted too, Alpha King and Oracle Queen, their wolves pressing close, the bond between them blazing so bright it illuminated the entire temple. Mine, his wolf rumbled in her mind. Always mine. Always yours, she sent back. In every life. Epilogue, 3 months later. The coronation was the grandest event the kingdom had seen in centuries. Elara stood on the balcony, wearing a crown of silver and gold, her hand resting on her very visibly pregnant belly. Below, thousands of wolves cheered, nobles and commoners, alphas and omegas, all united in celebration. Darius stood beside her, his hand covering hers, his obsessive need to touch her never quite fading even after the curse's breaking. If anything, it had grown stronger. He barely let her out of his sight, growled at anyone who got too close, and spent hours every night with his head pressed to her stomach, talking to their unborn child. "You're hovering again," she said, but she was smiling. "I'm protecting," he corrected. "There's a difference." Barely. Changes were sweeping the kingdom. Elara had disbanded the corrupt priestess order, replacing it with a council of oracles, other descendants of the bloodline who were emerging now that Morgana's suppression was gone. She'd granted Omegas the right to reject bonds without consequence, established protections against maid abuse, and created the Royal Omega Guard as an official military branch. Lady Seraphine and her followers had fled court. Kieran had returned to Silvercrest, broken and humbled, to face judgment for his role in the Bondwraith creation, though Alara's testimony about his being infected against his will had saved his life. "Your Majesty," Lyssa appeared at the balcony door. "There's news from the Northern Territories." Alara's smile faded. "The Nightshade Pack?" "Not exactly." Lyssa's expression was troubled. "Our scouts found something in their abandoned camps. Journals, ritual materials, and this." She held out an ancient scroll, its edges burned. Darius took it, his eyes scanning the contents. His face went pale. "What is it?" Elara asked. "A prophecy." His voice was tight. "One that predates Celestia, predates the Oracle bloodline, predates everything we know." He read aloud. "When the Oracle Queen awakens in power true, the sleeping ones will wake anew. From beyond the veil where ancient things dwell, the first wolves return from their frozen hell. The Oracle broke one curse of old, but woke another, dark and cold. The real prophecy now begins its course. She is the key, and the Alpha King is the door." Silence fell. "The first wolves," Elara whispered. "I've heard that term before. In the old story Celestia left behind. They were the originals." Darius's hand tightened on hers. "The wolves who existed before the moon goddess blessed our kind. Before mate bonds, before packs, before civilization. They were primal. Powerful beyond measure. And we just woke them up." In the distance, beyond the mountains where the Nightshade Pack had gathered, something howled, a sound that made every wolf in the capital freeze in instinctive terror. It was answered by another howl, and another, and another. Elara's hand went to her stomach, feeling their child kick. Oracle and Alpha King blood combined, growing stronger every day. "So the curse was never the real threat," she said slowly. "It was a distraction. A test. To see if an oracle could grow powerful enough to break it." Darius pulled her close, his body a wall of protection around her. Because only an oracle at full power could face what's coming. The real prophecy. The real war. They stood together as the sun set over the capital, painting the sky in shades of blood and gold. Below, the people celebrated their new queen, unaware that everything was about to change again. In the north, ancient eyes opened in the darkness. And in her womb, Alara's child, carrier of two bloodlines, Oracle and Alpha King combined, stirred with power that would reshape the world. The curse was broken. But the real story? It was only beginning. The end. There you have it, a tale of rejection transformed into destiny, of a curvy Omega who refused to be defined by others' expectations, and of a love so powerful it literally broke curses and rewrote fate itself. Elara claimed her power, revolutionized her world, and proved that the bonds we choose are stronger than any magic or prophecy. But as the epilogue promises, this is just the beginning. The first wolves are waking, and the Oracle Queen will need all her power, and her obsessive, devoted Alpha King, to face what comes next. Until the next moon rises. Thank you for watching this video. Subscribe, like and share this video to continue listening to this type of story daily and also, to appreciate this community too. I would like to hear your wonderful opinion about this story. Please comment below.